Ian, my name is Tommy. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi.
And Ron and Monty, happy birthday. It was great to hear what you guys had to say. And it's really good to be back in this meeting. Just a meeting in general. Life's been a little crazy lately. Got a couple kids now and a couple dogs and going to school, and life's busy, and ultimately I'm getting the opportunities I have today, and I'm in the position that I'm in today because of Alcoholics Anonymous and because of sobriety. It's good to be in the, I'm not physically there, spiritually and digitally I'm there, and it's good to be in an environment where people understand when I tell them that, when I tell you, once I take a drink, I don't have control of when I'm going to stop. That just goes out the window entirely, and you guys understand that. It's good to know that, be in a room where I'm not alone with that anymore. I have not been to a whole lot of meetings lately, so this is really good. My drinking started. I was probably 11 or 12 the first time I had a drink. And I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember that warm feeling that comes over me as soon as I take a drink, and it seems like all my problems kind of just fade away. And it's a very vivid memory, that feeling of alcohol that it gives me. And I noticed from a pretty early on that I had a different reaction than a lot of other people from it. At that age, I didn't understand why all the adults weren't drinking constantly. I had no clue. It made no sense. Like, why would you not want to feel this way all the time? And it kind of baffled me. It didn't make sense to me. And as I got older, people around me started drinking and whatnot, but I still, there was just something about when I take one drink, like my body, I feel a need to continue drinking despite things starting to fall apart. And that became more and more apparent the older I got. Throwing some other substances in there, and it wasn't too different with those either. It was like I liked that out of my head feeling, and it starting at a young age, I didn't really realize, again, like I said, I didn't realize why people didn't do this all the time at that point. And it was maybe a year after I started drinking and getting high or whatever, that it kind of dawned on me that I was kind of doing this every day. Like, it wasn't like here and there sort of thing like I saw most normal people doing. Like, it became an everyday thing, and it made sense to me still, because I was like, why would I want to feel disappointed? Why would I want to feel bad? Like, so the girl at school doesn't like me, or I didn't do very good on that test. It's like, it didn't matter. If I had alcohol in me, I still felt great. And it just made sense to do that. And so that's what I did. And, before I really realized it, like someone was saying, that became my entire life was being intoxicated. I mean, that lifestyle of just drinking and, doing other things, it became who I was. And after I was probably 3 years in drinking and getting loaded or whatever. And, I started to run into some serious consequences. It's like, I didn't realize when I started that, oh shit, I'm physically going to need this stuff, or I'm not going to be able to function. Like, I'm just not going to be able to. And I had to start doing some of the things, I had to start breaking into houses, and I had to keep it going. I wasn't of age yet. I couldn't go out and buy alcohol, but I sure could go into your house and take yours. And that's what I did. It made sense. Left your door. You have booze in your cabinet. I'm going to take it. And that's what I did. And it led to some serious consequences for me at that time. And so, consequently, a whole bunch of shit happened, and I kind of had that. It kind of got to the point where it was either I'm going to keep trying to do this, or I need to find another way to do things, because the way I was going wasn't working. It got really bad really fast, and I resisted it for a number of months. I mean, the whole gig was out. Like, I got caught stealing from someone's house, and I kind of spilled the beans at that point about what was going on. And so now that the gig was up, like, my parents knew about it, people at school knew about it, the police knew about it, and how deep I was really in this thing, which with an alcoholic mind, I was able to rationalize the hell out of it. And I was like, oh, I'm not that bad. But then in reality, it was really terrible. And it got to that point where it's either I continue doing this or I need to find another way. Because when I cold turkey just stopped doing what I was doing, I was left with myself. And at that point, I had no idea who the hell I was, because my identity it was in that bottle. That was who I was. That's how I knew how to deal with my emotions, my coping mechanism. It was never in my mind now. Like, I heard, it was never a drinking problem. It was a drinking solution, and that's exactly what I had. I had that as my solution for every one of my problems. So when that was taken away, I was left with a shitstorm, man. Like, I didn't know who I was, and I completely lost myself. And really, when you hear about and read about being spiritually bankrupt, like, that's where I was at. I got to the point where I was willing to go to rehab and do something different. And honestly, like, for me, that was kind of like my white light. That was one of my white light experiences of, like, I'm willing to try something different. When I became just a little bit willing is when I finally found some hope again. And I ran with that. I went to rehab. I was introduced to the 12 steps by people who were more than twice my age, who had gone down a lot deeper than I had, as far as, like, external things and doing things that I had yet to do. But I could relate to them. I knew I was home. Like, I knew I was where I was supposed to be, because when the guy that I first met in Alcoholics Anonymous or Cocaine Anonymous or whatever Anonymous it was, when I first met, he was, he's this biker dude who lived this gnarly fucking life, and he told me, telling us all this horrible shit he did in his past, and I hadn't gotten to that point yet, but what I had got to was to that completely empty darkness that he felt within himself in his last days. And, like, I knew what that was all about. And before I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, there was no one in my life that even came close to understanding what that was. And I read the steps on the wall, and I dove into the book, and I ran with it, man. And it was, like, by far to this day, Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps have been, without a doubt, the best thing that's ever happened to me, like, by far. And I wish I could tell you that, oh yeah, I've been sober since I was 15 or whatever, and that's not my story. Things get good, and they got good quick, like, really fucking quick. I was on that pink cloud, and I was 15 years old. I didn't have any major responsibilities in my life. So once it got good again, I was like, you know what else is good? Alcohol. And, the book warned me about it. People told me about it. They're like, if you don't stick to this and remember how bad it fucking was, and keep going to meetings and reaching out your hand and talking to people that are just coming in that door, you're going to forget. You're going to forget how bad it was. And, alcohol's cunning, baffling, powerful. And the most important word in that whole sentence in the book is remember. And my mind likes to forget all that shit, and it likes to think about the highlight reel. It plays the highlight reel over and over. And, there have been a few times over the years where, like, I wasn't going to meetings, I wasn't working steps, I wasn't staying connected with people, and I wasn't trying to communicate and stay in connection with God. And every time I've done that, I've ended up getting loaded again. And at first it was like, why am I fucking doing this? I just don't get it. Even though I read it, I read it in the book, people told me about it. Here at the meetings all the time. Someone comes in after a relapse, like, what happened? It's like, well, I stopped going to meetings. I stopped calling people. I wasn't involved anymore. And it's the same story over and over. It's like, after like continuously just slamming my head against the wall, it was like, do I really want to keep doing that? There is this other solution, and mind you, also what happened is things progressively got worse, and the consequences got worse, and all those things that had yet to happen to me and that I'd yet to try or do, they happened, and I know, like, we're lucky to be in these rooms. Like, we're lucky to be doing this, and we're fortunate to have a way to stay connected to God, to stay spiritually fit. And I know that, like, when I stop doing that, that alcoholic thinking gets back in, man, and all those things that have yet to do. And, like, if I thought it got bad then, like, it just gets worse, and it will go back there, Ultimately, the number one thing that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me is a direct connection to my higher power, to God. And it honestly, like, the way that is maintained is by staying connected to other alcoholics right now. Church is great, like, that's awesome, and I know it does a lot for a lot of people. And you know what, like, I would love to find a church that was great, but for me, like, Alcoholics Anonymous is full of people that have already been to hell and don't want to go back there. Where it's like, when I go to church, it's metaphorically or whatever, it's like I met a lot of people that are afraid to go to hell, haven't been there yet. But everyone in this room has been to hell. If you're dealing with alcoholism in any way, whether it's you or somebody else, you've been to hell. And there's a whole nother level of appreciation that I find in Alcoholics Anonymous. There's not just that a one for God. There's a legitimate, like, I need to have God in my life, because if I don't, it gets really bad really quick. I think, like I mentioned earlier, I have 2 kids right now under the age of 2. I have 2 dogs. We're currently, I'm engaged, and we're staying at my in-laws' place. They're here part-time, and it's like the housing market went crazy. We're going to buy, maybe Idaho is not such a bad idea. And and it's like, dude, there are so many blessings in my life today that are directly related to the fact that I'm sober, and it can be gone in a matter of hours, if not minutes. Like, no shit. And it's right there. Like, all that shit is right out the door, man. You go drive down the street, go to the liquor store, it's there. It's waiting. And the fact that, like, that I'm given an opportunity, and more importantly, like, a way of life that allows me to live without having to go to that old solution. I have new solutions today that work really well, and I get to be there for my family. I get to be there for the people that I love, and it's not easy. Like, a lot of times, dude, it's tough. Like, before I had kids, like, man, I had it easy. I look back now, I'm like, holy shit. But it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. Like, getting to show up and be there and be a part of life is an amazing thing. Real quick, I know I got like a couple minutes left. One thing I've been struggling with lately is I've been trying to get a new job with a government agency. I've been trying to get on with, like, fire department or whatever. And my background's kind of coming to bite me in the ass a little bit with that. I don't usually go into, like, personal stuff or whatever too deep, but it kind of has bitten me in the ass. And I know in our promises it talks about not regretting the past or wishing to shut the door on it. And honestly, right now, like, I'm kind of living in some regret. Like, I regret, like, the choices I made, and it's no one else's fault. Like, this was me. Those decisions and those things that happened were me living on self-will and me deciding to make decisions that were ultimately, going to harm me. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it, but now I'm kind of struggling with that. Like, fuck, man, I wish I do kind of regret that past in a sense. And, I'm looking forward to like diving into some, inventory and looking at how, what's affecting it and my part in it and moving on, because ultimately, like, I have experienced before being able to turn my past into my greatest asset and being able to help others with it. And, I'm looking forward to doing that again, but right now it's, kind of having a hard time with that, as it is holding me up into where I think or where I would like to be. So that kind of leads me into the topic of not regretting the past or wanting to shut the door on it, and how our past can be useful and helpful to others. And that's what I got. That's where I'd like to open it up.
Right on. Thanks.